morning, everybody. This is Chad Steinkamp here with the Nexus Ag Update. And today we are going to do our finale of our Fantasy Crop Challenge. I got a full room in here today with our participants on the Nexus side and a guest from the Croplan side as our expert in the room. But we'll get started with the participants of the challenge and go from there. Colin, why don't you start her off?
Hello, everybody. Colin Nazar's here, agronomy advisor out of Stacyville. I'm excited to be here.
I'm Josh St. Ange, agronomy advisor out of Northwood, and I'm also excited to be here.
And I'm rounding it out, Nick Hazelton. I am a area sales manager for the Marble Rock area, the southern part of Nexus. A little outpost down there.
Okay. And then to my left, you don't know that if you're listening, but to my left here in the room is Jeff from Croplan. Why don't you give your introduction?
Hello, everybody. Jeff Osterhaus. I'm the seed product manager for Croplan, covering Wisconsin and Iowa.
Yeah, so when we recorded the last one, we were trying to get Jeff to come on, but his schedule was kind of tight, and then we brought Andy Dickinson, and which is good too. I mean, Andy still knows his stuff. You actually replaced Andy a couple years ago on that role, and
yes. He's
kind of moved up in the world and stuff. So it's kind of nice to hear him or see him. I haven't seen him for quite a while, but we wanted to make sure that we had an expert with the current practices that were going on out there, and we kind of went from there. But for anybody that doesn't or wasn't listening to the first one, what we kind of did was we kind of picked some numbers that were in our plots and that were planted in these fields in our area, and we're trying to compare them we put together like a fantasy football team. So we were putting together kind of a mix for ourselves to come plant in 26, and we kind of base it off of let's use our selection process like putting together a fantasy team. So an early day corn, kind of midday corn, a little bit of a later day corn, something you're going to kind of take a flyer on, just try. It's going to push yield and put you in the yield contest, and then a couple soybean varieties out there. So we kind of put it together kind of like a draft, and so we had one person could pick first, but then the next round he's picking last, kind of like a snake draft, like you do in a fantasy football league. So I know we just got here just a little bit ago. I didn't give Jeff kind of what everybody did for numbers. Let's just maybe review what we did the last time, and just let's see what your thoughts were on that. I kind of put together a sheet for everybody that's in here, kind of color-coded, which, for each of our picks and stuff like that. The first pick was Josh. He had Brevant 04J. 45. What's your thoughts on that one, Jeff?
So I know Brevant's been very excited about 04J all summer long with the yield potential and the agronomics behind it. And I know it looked really, really solid all season long, but as we got right up to the end, I did notice some anthracnose top dieback and some stalk and crown rot show up on it. And I think that's probably what kind of shaved some of that yield potential off with it.
Yep.
And this isn't the only product that kind of suffered that fate right at the very end of the season. And with a lot of these, as we walk and talk through them today, you kind of have to look back through at the weather that we had and the diseases that showed up and, really understand what went on beyond just what the combine told us at the end of the season. So,
but all in all, I mean, it still had very good yield potential.
Yes, it did.
It had a really good season.
Yep. And as I look up and down this list, I see changes in performance based on some local weather and disease patterns. If I go across the river into Wisconsin, I see some similarities and some very different and distinct differences in product performance one region to another.
Yep. And maybe we should talk about that too a little bit. We did do all our plots in the Nexus network, but we also utilized Owatonna's answer plot. We used Wadamingo's answer plot for the 95 day because that was the only one that had 95. We used Rudd's answer plot. I did pull one out of Jessup for your 2.7 soybeans there, Nick, just for your reference.
I appreciate that.
Yep, that was the only one I could find it in. That was halfway close, so that's what we went with. And then I used Austin Carlson's data set on the DeKalb side for southeast Minnesota. So tried to have as big of a data set as possible. There was probably about 15 different plots, 16 different plots that we're pulling stuff out of. So tried to make it as big of an area as we could. So Nick was the next one in line. He picked 105.35 or 105.33 depending on the plot. We kind of used both indiscriminately. So what was everybody's thoughts on that?
I was proud to stand on that one. That one I think had a pretty darn good year. As long as it didn't have super wet feet throughout the year, that yielded pretty good. I think everybody that planted that was pretty happy with it. And looking at the yield that came back over the plot averages, I think a guy would not have been upset having that out there.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one, Jay?
I would agree. I mean, you look back to 2024 and the wet feet issues, the crown rot specifically that we saw with 105.33 and 35 both. I'd say it had a comeback year, especially for that continuous corn acre with heavy rootworm pressure behind it. So it stepped up. Was it always the bell ringer? No, but it was definitely always in that upper half to upper third of most plots.
I think we figured out where we can put that one and best manage that one.
Yep.
I think drainage was huge for that number. I mean, if it was a field that was well drained or has really good drain tile, I mean, it was lights out.
Wait, you guys had excessive rain over here
Just
this year?
just a little,
couple?
just a
Little
little,
water.
Yeah.
little water. Yeah.
No, I unfortunately saw that one on a swamp farm this year, and it struggled to make 100 bushel. So I mean, it's very, very, it needs drainage.
Yeah.
But it'll yield really well for you with the drainage.
Yeah, but then I had a couple fields that I saw it on that had a really good drain tile, and 250, 260. There was probably some spots that were higher than that on the yield monitor. Mm-hmm. So, Colin, you had a newer number on the DeKalb side, 106.98. What did you think of that one, Colin?
Oh, that's one of those that variety there in specific. That was one when I was walking that Adams plot. I don't know, probably two or 3 weeks before we did our draft. It stood out. Had really good disease. Seemed like it had really good disease tolerance from just a visual aspect. And that VT4 Pro lineup, I guess I kind of favored them a little bit. If you look at my next draft, I had that 09 or DeKalb 9888 in there as well. I just had a lot of confidence in it, and I think kind of going into next year, you look at something like 105.35. Is that 106.98 going to be replacing that in some acres, or are more guys going to be thinking going that route? I think they can kind of go back and forth between those two. So, no, I thought it had a really great year, and I guess if you look at the yield rank here, number 3. So, it did pretty well. I don't think it did as well in our Adams plot, but obviously, we pulled yield data from many different sites. So,
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that pick.
What do you think, Jeff?
So I do believe that DeKalb has this one poised as that 107 replacement, as well as taking some of the pressure off of 105.33. So VT4 is going to give you some rootworm protection, but not as strong as, say, with the Smart Stack Pro. But I would say this has been one that's kind of stepped up and shown that next level of performance that they have coming out of that breeding platform.
So it's one of those diet rootworm products.
To use my phrase, yes, diet rootworm. Not for the nuclear levels of corn rootworm pressure, but for more moderate to normal corn rootworm pressure, this will take care of most of what you need. But
When you're rotated acres, maybe your extended diapause ground, I mean, it's a really good option for
Correct.
that. Or maybe even your corn on corn, light pressure rootworm areas.
I think whether you planted DeKalb last year or maybe looking to plant DeKalb this year, you'd be doing yourself a disservice not having that 106.98 in some form in your farm plan for the next year.
Well, especially like a guy that's maybe done like 56.26, 56.65, and like you said, 105.33 or 35. I mean, it's probably a nice replacement for some of that stuff because like 56.65 and 56.26 is showing some age, and I don't know if they're even coming forward with a lot of production of 50 or those two. So yeah, it makes some sense. I took a flyer on mine, the 103 63 on the DeKalb side. That's a brand new one in that 103-day market, Smart Stacks Pro. I kind of went with that one a little bit because I was kind of looking at some of the kind of the same plot Colin was looking at. It looked pretty decent out there. I liked the way that ear set looked on it, and I thought, well, he actually sniped my one I was looking at. It was 106, so that was maybe a little bit of a panic pick, but it's what it is. But I mean, that one's showing like it could be something to look into in the future.
Yeah, this one's been sharp all year. Looking at the performance here, it actually kind of looks like it's off, but I'm kind of questioning its relative maturity compared to other products it's being tested against here in some of the plots that you've got pulled forward, because where I've seen it, the health has been exceptional. The yield's been very, very high on it. I do believe that this is not a huge volume product for DeKalb going forward because it is a brand new launch. I think they're just a little limited on supply. So this is one I would say sprinkle it in with some orders, take it for a test drive. It is SmartStack Pro only at this point. So, but I've got a lot of interest in that 10363.
Yeah, because we only had it in 4 plots, and the performance on it was, one of the plots was a corn-on-corn plot that didn't perform real well. Otherwise, the Rudd plot and the Owatonna plot were in the 220s, 230s, so handled itself okay, I think. Actually, no, I was looking at the wrong one. That was about 230. Yeah, the same thing, that corn-on-corn plot maybe didn't help out. So then it was kind of our one. Everybody kind of did the same maturity range all the time, so maybe that's something to look into going forward. Right. Nick and I were talking about that before. It's like, yeah, it's strategies. There's some different strategies to this. I went with 110-10 as my flex in the next round. That's actually been something I've picked before. It did really well a couple years ago and actually won me this thing, but it didn't this year. It did fine, but probably didn't perform as well as maybe we'd seen in the past.
Well, I think the thing with 110-10 this year is it had more ups and downs. The last couple of years have been pretty consistent. Yes. I think this year, I don't know if I'd say that it's Southern Rust, but you look at the whole smorgasbord of diseases that moved in late, and I think that led to a little bit of the inconsistency with yield compared to what we saw the last couple of years. So I'm still by no means scared of it. I think it is a very solid product, but it's hard to expect perfection year in and year out. I mean, let's be honest, we all have a bad day every once in a while, too.
Yeah. That one was probably, my low was our Manly plot. That one kind of pulled that one back a little bit, but it's what it is.
Yep.
So, Colin, you had Brevant 05D47.
Yeah, no, I did. Coming in at, so when we're looking at this yield rank here, I mean, that's, fourth overall of all the picks that are on our board.
Yes.
Okay. 05D, don't have a lot of experience with it.
It's fairly new.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, is that a 2024 launch year? Is that after that that 47? So that 4 is the 2024 launch year. I guess I was looking at something that can maybe potentially compete with that 04J45. Obviously, I really like that variety too. So, I mean, that was kind of maybe stealing a potentially close number to that 04J45 and seeing what it can do. Other than that, that's haven't seen too much of it yet. Hope to see more in the future of it. But yeah, that was kind of the reason I picked that.
I just remember that one looked really good in Spencer's plot over by Carpenter. I mean, that one probably was one of the better looking ones out there. I mean, would you guys agree with that? I mean, you were probably the closest one to that one.
Yeah, I think late season it held its color and the green pretty good, and it stood well late into the year. And it's one of those products. It's pretty tall and has a lot of trash, but it also yields through that, and it also can be used as a silage corn. So guys that are looking for a mid-100-day range silage corn, I think that would be a good option for them as well.
Yep. What do you think on that one, Joe?
So it's still relatively new, and I know the reps I've been around for Brevant, they've been pushing the 04J more so than the 05D. So I'm not sure if it's a supply issue, if it's a local market that they're kind of going after. But honestly, I think it's a flip of the coin between these two and which one you want to go with.
Well, I think it's a complementary thing. I mean, sometimes it's good to have a couple in that same maturity range. I mean, we all got different types of soil underneath it.
Yep.
And so I think it's a good move. Nick, you went really late. I think you were kind of following me on that one, but you looked like you went with 109.71. What caused you to go that direction?
Well, it was one of those that it was kind of being new to the game here. It wasn't quite sure on the strategies yet, so I was just kind of looking for a little bit later number that had showed some really high yield potential as a kind of a flyer, as you would call it, to maybe grab me a few extra points. Looking back, I think I realized it probably right after the fact. Really like the number. Really wishing I would have grabbed 101 here instead of the 109, just with the scarcity of the earlier maturities.
Yep.
But it's a good learning moment for next year.
Yep.
We'll be back and a little more competitive in that one. But it certainly happy with how it yielded. I mean, it still performed really, really well. Yeah, I would, be happy with that one, planting that one next year as well.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'd say so. 109.71 to me has been that offensive complement to DeKalb's 110.10 for more that high-end acre where you're going to push the upper limits, whereas 110.10, versatile, good yield, but still more versatility to it. So I think 109.71 did exactly what we would have expected this year, and where you're playing the RM game to your advantage there, Nick, I mean, hats off to you.
Yeah.
So.
Josh finished up that flex pick with Brevant 07G52. What were your thoughts, or how did you think that performed this year, Josh?
So the reason I picked this 07 is it's a new product this year in the Brevant's portfolio. And when we took a tour down in August down to Marion, we were talking with the breeders, and the main thing that stuck out to me is that they said that they bred this to yield. So having it be in a competition that takes yield into account, that was kind of my main choice for picking this one, and it performed really, really well across our plots and the answer plots.
So this was kind of your ace in the hole at that point.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What do you think of Josh's pick on that one?
I think he was wise to grab this one. It is a newer product. It is incredible. I would almost question, is it truly a 107-day, or is it maybe a 108 or 109? Your moisture here looks pretty spot on relative to other products, but I know as you look at as I see a bigger region, it usually is one of the greenest and healthiest products at this RM. So I think there might be a little bit of a play there on moisture, but it does yield. So
yeah. So your highest yield in one plot was the Meltonville plot. That was at 288. So, yeah, it definitely had the yield at that point. So
How much representation did we have for that number? How many plots were?
4.
4? Okay.
4. Yeah, so that was over in Manly, Meltonville, and the 2 answer plots in Owatonna and Rudd.
Okay.
So the Meltonville plot was the only one that we had it in, and Manly were the only 2 that we had it in. So. We did start, everybody kind of started down the 100-day after that. Josh picked 101.35, 101.33. Nick has already made the comment. He wishes he would have sniped that one. But is there really much we got to say about that number? Anybody? I mean, that number had an excellent year around this area.
Yeah, and it's done really well this year, and it's done really well the last 2 or 3 years that it's been in the plots as well. It's been kind of the one that everybody's trying to beat. So, and then once again, it had another really good year. So
yeah,
I look at it as a variety that you really can't you can't really disappoint yourself with planting that. I mean, if you want to stay on somebody's farm and you've never sold seed to them, and they have a fit for that 101.35 or a 101.33, I mean, I would put that as one of your lead products from the DeKalb portfolio. If you want to have a safe bet, at least.
I was talking to a guy yesterday, and that was his best corn, hands it down, and that he plants a little bit of everybody, and including us and the competition, but that outcompeted everything, even his 105, 106 day, ours, everybody's. So I was really happy with that one.
Yeah. I mean, 101.33, 101.35, it's the benchmark at that 100-day RM for everybody to kind of compare against.
Yes. So. Yep. Nick finished up the 100 days with 102.28. We talked about
a little bit sad.
That was a little bit sad. And you probably caught a little bit of only being in one plot. That didn't help.
Yep.
Because we only had that one plot, and it wasn't even in answer plots or anything like that. So it's one of those things we run into every once in a while. But
we learn for next year.
But I mean, part of it is there's a reason why you probably picked it.
Yep. I mean that number historically has been pretty consistent. It's not a crazy high yielder, but usually you don't see a ton of bottom end in it, and this year I think it was a little more susceptible to that southern rust, and it that really beat it up pretty good.
Yeah.
And you guys were in an area here. I know walking the rut answer plot at the end of the season for taking notes. That was some of the heaviest southern pressure that I saw. And you go a few miles either direction, and it was completely different. So a little bit dumb luck on where were you at for the southern pressure, along with everything else. And 102.28 to me is kind of like 110.10, just on an earlier version. It's that stable, consistent, just every acre type of product instead of that purely offensive plot winner. So.
Colin, you picked 98.88 on the DeKalb side.
Not the best year for it, I guess plot wise, but I think if you get out to to the grower side of things, I mean, anybody that had it on their farm, I think was pretty happy. I mean, the plots are not showing a lot. Are we going to go away from that product? No. Has DeKalb got a big supply of it? Yes. I still look at it for a guy that wants something that's going to dry down quick, yield well. It's not the prettiest pony, but I'm still confident in myself, and I don't know. And I do think back. I mean, maybe I wish I would have cheated up in the maturities a little bit where I could, but I'll still stand on it. I really like that. Really like that number, and especially scouting in the plot too. I mean, I thought it looked really good, at least in the Adams plot. So
I like this as a field corn. I mean, this is not the showiest one in a test plot. I like it in a field situation myself. It did really well in a field situation. I mean, it just didn't have those lows.
Yeah, and last year and this year, 98.88's been exceptional in a lot of the data that I see. So I think it kind of plays a little bit on that. Where are you at, and maturity-wise, what are you comparing it against? And I think as we look at a lot of this 100-day RM, even down into the upper 90s, you can see there is a bias where the fuller season stuff had the yield advantage, as it typically does.
Yes.
And the other thing, too, think about the warmer, drier finish that we saw through September, latter half of August, even the front half of October. What was the moisture most guys were harvesting corn at this fall?
Well, it was all over the place, but yeah, it was fairly dry.
Right. We had more corn under 20 than we did over 20.
Yes.
Hitting the elevators, which that's usually an indication of a rapid finish, and your earlier products usually do get cheated a little bit in their yield potential on a hot, dry, early fall. So
that one to me looks like it's earlier than it actually is, because I mean, it just plant physiology side of things, it looks like a 96 day out there. I mean, it dried, the plants died down like a 96 this year to me.
Yep.
I mean, I had it in a field situation at home where I had some like 101, 102 next to it, and then that thing was in the middle of it, and dead as a doornail,
Yeah.
and still had the other stuff had some green on it. So
Yep.
I kind of rounded up the 100-day with Croplan 4083. I actually had some high hopes for this one, but it did fine. I'm not complaining, but I mean, but it didn't do as well as I was expecting, because I actually thought it was going to be really good the way that thing looked in the plots. But
So I would say this, saying that it did fine is the best way to summarize it.
Yes.
Whole field scenarios this year, it did fine. Really no complaints on it. From a plot standpoint, it didn't look as sharp as what we would have liked. There's some pretty high horsepower stuff around it, from 101, 33, 35. You got 98, 88. You got some Brevant products in there that are pretty high yielding right at 100-day.
yep,
4083 to me is one of those just set it and forget it VT4s. So, and if you had it in some spots with wet feet, kind of like what we saw last year, similar to 105.33 and our
Yep.
46.52, it does take a little bit in the chin when on those poorly drained soils. So that may pull it back a little bit there. But to me, whole field type of a product, yeah, it does fine.
yep. I kind of started out the 96-day stuff, or the 95-day data set with Brevant 96M56. And that's a relatively new number. Honestly, I kind of took a flyer on it because I saw some stuff, it's like, okay, I think that one could be interesting, and it was.
Heck of a product to take a flyer on.
Yeah, I'll take it. Didn't have many wins in this thing, so I'll take it.
You and me both.
So talking, I mean, on the grower side of things, Chad, this Brevant 96M, I mean, where are you placing that product?
It's
going
one of
forward next year?
those things where I want to plant first, harvest first. kind of let's shine things up. Let's get this thing out and kind of go from there. That's the way I kind of approach this product. Part of it to me also was I wanted a little bit of genetic diversity too. It seems like they've had some good numbers in that range, so that's part of it as well. I wanted to make sure it was dry.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, this is their next generation. You can see it's got the Vor seed on it, so
yes.
you have the rootworm protection there with it. But this is them getting off of the AMX trait for rootworm protection.
Yep. Colin, you went with 3790 as your 95 day.
I guess not much needed for explanation here. I guess
It did well.
It did well. It's one of those where you kind of set it and forget it type of varieties. That's kind of the way I was looking at it. I don't know if I was picking it to be the yield king, but I more or less picked it as a safe bet. I'm not going to lose everything on it. I'm not going to win everything on it. So I guess that was part of my decision. Talking with internal reps, I've always that 3790. It always gets brought up in the seed discussions on the Croplan side. So I guess that was part of my reasoning for choosing it.
Yeah, Croplan 3790, big yield potential with it. It does take stress quite well, but I do feel it is one of those, it needs management. Don't let it come up short on nitrogen. Depending on how long you want to let it stand in the field in the fall, fungicide can be your best friend, although it's not absolutely necessary. But if you want to squeeze the most out of it, take care of it, feed it, protect it, and let it scream. Just don't expect it to stand until Thanksgiving out in the field. So,
Yep.
There's a couple fields on the way down here that they might be standing until Thanksgiving, so who knows?
Yeah. Nick, you had 9707 on the DeKalb side.
So this is where the northern part of the company gets a little bit of an advantage on us southerners down here, because we don't see anything below
100 day is about the end of it.
100 day, yeah. I mean, that's kind of 101 is kind of our bottom, and so this was more so a shot in the dark, reading up on some stuff from DeKalb. Yeah, that was I had good luck with the brand in general, but haven't with any brand really been in the sub 100 days.
Right. So. But you go look at it. I mean, it yielded pretty good for a flyer, though.
I say it didn't do too bad.
No. What do you think on that one?
So
I know
this
it's a
one's
little early probably for you, too.
Well, it's not so much early as much as fairly new.
Fairly
for
new.
Me. So I know DeKalb's been trying to do a lot of work to replace some of their existing products in this 96, 97 day RM, and I think this and the next one are both part of that class of products. So I'm still learning this in the next one as well, too, myself. Yep. So.
Well, let's go right into that. Josh had 96, 96 from DeKalb.
So this was kind of my flyer pick as well. I really don't know too much about the 96, but I really liked the way that 09621 looked last year. So, and it yielded fairly well, so that was kind of my premise for picking this 96 day.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of went through that already, where it's a little bit of a new one. But but they've been needing something in that range.
Yeah,
I mean, they've had a couple good ones in the past, but it just seems like it's a little bit of a hole in their lineup.
Yeah, hole, and they're going through a transition there, so that's the biggest thing is just to find what is consistent in the performance world for them there. So
yep. So that kind of finished out our corn side of things, and we each got 2 beans after that. Josh went with Croplan 2020.
So the reason I went with the 2020s is we've been selling them here for a couple of years, and I'm fairly familiar with them, and they kind of plant it wherever and they yield. And the one thing I like is that it's a win pack, so it has 50% an offensive bean and 50% a defensive bean, so that allows it for a little bit more flexibility across many acres.
Yeah, that one, I mean, one of our better white mold beans in our area. I mean, not everybody deals with that, but you get into southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, in our region, it seems like there's a lot of white mold.
Yeah, and that's really, this wind pack is an offensive-defensive combo built specifically for this area and probably more east in mind where you are fighting the white mold. So standability and white mold are paramount with this wind pack while maintaining good yield potential with it, too. Is it going to blow the doors off every plot? No, but when you get on that average acre, my farm included where we battle white mold, this thing is about as solid as you're going to find.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, going into it, I mean, it was third altogether when it comes to the bean numbers. So it yielded. I mean, average yield on it was just a little over 70. So we definitely had good yield potential with it.
Won't get you kicked off the farm with that.
No, you won't. No, you won't. Nick, you had Stein 22 EG02s. Discuss that one a little bit.
Well, I'm glad. I guess I'm seeing the day that a 65 bushel bean is the
low point,
almost dead last in the rankings here. But I just you walking some plots up by Patterson Seeds up there, bean looked good. They had good. Just overall good things to say about it. Now, coming to Nexus, this has been kind of my first, I guess, experience with Stein specifically, but not that we don't see them in other bags, but just the actual name brand Stein beans. They had good things to say, good yield, and I figured I'd jump into something I didn't know as much about there and see how she went.
I mean, that one's got pretty good agronomics too. I mean, that can kind of go where we needed to go. And that's the biggest thing is just the flexibility in that 2.2 range. I mean, we got a good number in that range.
It's got a good reputation behind it.
Yes. Colin had 1620 Croplans. We're pretty Croplan heavy so far on the beans.
So I guess what I'm looking at here, I mean, this particular variety, I mean, just shy of Nick's 22 EG02s.
Welcome to the bottom.
I set the bottom, so
set the
welcome.
bottom with just about 65 bushel beans.
You're welcome. No, that's what we're talking about. 65 bushel beans is setting the bottom here, so that's pretty impressive. Most guys' farms would be pretty happy with that.
Yes.
I guess the past few years, I felt that that 1.5 to 1.7 maturity range is kind of just it's been raising the best yields. I mean, not just plots. I mean, plots are hard to say. I mean, when you have plots and you kind of expect the higher maturities to, be the yield leaders. But you're looking at a growers fields, and I was on the farmer's mindset. They still like those 1.5s and 1.6, and they're yielding well for them. I guess that was part of the reason picking a 1.6. It seems like most of the guys you talk to, they always ask, well, is there any reason for me to move from a 1.5 to moving up my maturity? That's some of my best yielding bean, that 1.5 range.
They cut nice.
Yeah,
they cut nice.
Did you have some of that on your farm?
I had a component of it. We'll talk about that one here in a minute.
Okay.
So
I mean, when you look at Croplan 1620, it really is a workhorse that we put together. It is a Peking by Peking wind pack with strong IDC tolerance. So really, when you think about it on the Des Moines lobe, those IDC hot pockets as you go farther west where you get into some more cyst pressure, this is one of those wind packs you can beat the crap out of it day after day. It's not going to win plots, but it's never going to get you kicked out of the field. Right. So that's really what 1620 is all about. It's not an offensive wind pack by any means.
Yeah. I had two in a row. I went with Brevant 194. I got a typo in here. I had 914. It's the other way around. 194.
We'll forgive you.
9.1 maturity.
Yeah.
9.1 maturity.
9.1 maturity in this area. I'll take it. I kind of went with that one because I was kind of thinking more of a defensive package and stuff like that. I've had defense on my mind, but yet it still yielded pretty well for our area. It fits kind of nice for what we have for our disease pressure and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I picked that one.
Where I saw it with heavy white mold pressure and a lot of lodging, this was one of the better standing beans.
Yeah.
It is defensive in nature in that regard, like you said.
Yep.
So,
but it's still had a punch,
yes.
But it just maybe didn't have that high end punch. But
yep.
Good one when you're going to get kicked off the farm. I did 1525 as my other bean. That's actually a component to that 1620 that Colin picked. I kind of like that one because it seems like that's the more offensive bean in that part of the lineup. And I mean, I saw maybe a little bit of white mold with it, but not tremendously. And I felt like the yield potential was just hard to beat.
Yeah. No, you were spot on. 1525s do have a nice yield punch with them, along with the agronomic or the defensive side of them. So
yeah, and that's one of them we got in our tanks this year too. So like we had last year. So Colin, you had Brevant 205, and that was your last pick. What was thoughts on that one?
Just walking the plots, I it's one of those beans that, and it's hard to, and I'm not a big bean guy. I mean, it's really hard for me to differentiate, what's looking really good out there. I was looking at this number out, I believe on the Meltonville plot. I mean, everything, I guess I didn't look how everything yielded out there on Meltonville.
I can tell you.
I
Meltonville plot, it was 72.
Okay, so it came in at 4 there. I was looking. On that plot in particular, I thought that 1.8 to 2.1 range. I mean, everything looked fairly close to each other. I mean, this is maybe a flyer pick for me. I don't have a lot of experience with the Brevant lineup on the soybean side. I guess that's kind of what led me to taking it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Brevant 205 to me, I think it looks like there is some relation to the 194s. And when I look at them, very farmer friendly, good standability, above average white mold, just a good solid pick that's really hard to kind of screw up on most acres. So good consistency there. With, I don't know, usually you see very, very good yields on it, but I think when you do throw some disease pressure on, it kind of settles them in more to the middle of the pack than the plot winners. But really a hard bean to mess up.
And that's maybe in that more severe situation, you go with the 194 versus that 205.
Yep.
So, Nick, you kind of took a big swing here. You kind of went well out of the area. Well, I won't say well out of the area. You were right in your area.
I went back home with that one.
He went back home with that one. You actually picked an XtendFlex, and honestly, I cannot remember the last time an XtendFlex has been picked in this thing.
Been a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while. But you picked 27 FX XF. Oh my gosh, I should typos
okay,
all over the
Chad.
place. XF03.
So that one was just combined a field of that last year, and there was nothing else close to what if beans weren't 8%, that field could have very well gone 90, 100 bushel. And it, obviously one field, one specific circumstance there, but it was very, very viney bean. It was, not the cleanest cutting by any means, a lot of trash, a lot of material that came with it, but it, holy cow, was the yield there. So
It was worth the time.
It was worth the time to go out and do it.
So, Nick, you should have gone and bought a Powerball ticket because you played two things to your advantage. So, first of all, the maturity game. Secondly, if there was a year to gamble on XtendFlex from a yield standpoint, it was this year. All in all, I think this year really showed, and our answer plot data shows it in the summaries as well, too. The agronomic stresses that were out there from a variety of diseases, whether it be white mold, lodging, some IDC, it showed the agronomic strength of a lot of the XtendFlex products that we typically don't get to see. So it'll be curious to see where these different trait stacks go in the future with Viconic and some of the other stacks moving forward. Will these XtendFlex products continue to have kind of a hidden or a more subtle yield advantage? Will that genetic material hold that? And what will our over-the-top labels for application bring us there too?
That's one
That's
big thing.
that's the biggest wild card of them all.
Yep.
And I don't know where's Bear sitting at with that right now. I know it's
TBD.
TBD.
It that would
Although
be,
they got a lot of confidence that it might come back.
it'd be a huge. I know I'm a big dicamba person. I know there's a lot that goes along with the documentation and stuff like that. On the operations side, it can be a little more cumbersome.
Yes.
But
Yep.
it kills them dead every time.
But this year, kind of back to what I said, is you're seeing the genetic potential of that germplasm that has kind of in the upper Midwest has been kind of hidden for a number of years because of label
Underutilized.
restrictions. Yep.
I guess my thought is this shows maybe that light in the tunnel with like you just said, with the Viconics. I mean, we used to sell a lot of Asgrows out there.
Yep.
I mean, I'd say almost half our lineup was Asgrow at one time, when back in the Roundup 2 days and stuff like that. But it's just a non-starter with a lot of guys that just don't want the baggage at that point. But I think there's some good things about it, because I mean, you could use it as a pre-merge. I guess I'm a big proponent of that. But if you stack it with the the Enlist, and we got a little bit of post potential, I mean, that would help too. So Last one was Josh. He had Brevant 155.
So this is a new bean to Brevant this year, and in our area in Northwood, we've had really good luck with 1.5s and 1.6 beans, especially Steins. We've had really good luck with, so that's why kind of what drew me towards the 1.5s was just in our area they yield really well. So I was hoping that would kind of go through in all the plots.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a 1.5, this bean does seem to check a lot of the boxes, both yield potential-wise, agronomics, white mold, and standability. So a really nice complement to put next to that Croplan 1525 as you get on the earlier side for that more offensive acre with a white mold history to it.
So that kind of finished everything up. I did a couple things to kind of give us an idea how everybody did. Actually made a nice chart that kind of shows how everybody kind of did. But we will have a new winner this year regardless. We had one participant that decided not to do it, so he was out. Although we kind of gave him a little bit of a back in because, he was saying that he could have won it with whatever was left. And I actually gave him that chance, but I feel he cherry-picked, and as a majority vote in this room, I think we all kind of agreed that he kind of cherry-picked after the plot data at that point. But so Spencer was out on that, but he did win last year, so we're going to have a new champion this year. At the end of the day, it was Josh he definitely had probably some of the higher picks, but he also had the most consistency out there too. So Josh is a first-time winner. Why don't you hand that over to him? That's yours. You get to keep it until next year, so it's a traveling trophy for the whole group. So you'll have to sign your name on it after it's all said and done, and keep it in your office and keep it on your desk proud. And when that customer asks, why do you got a trophy on your desk, you can just say, I'm the best picker, the winner.
He's the winner.
He's the winner.
And I knew once Spencer heard I was coming in to do this, I knew he was scared, so that's why he decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. So
You heard it here first. Are you calling him out for next year? Or?
yep, you better come back and regain your crown.
Yeah. He did pick a few numbers that we didn't pick. Maybe we'll just go through those quick, but I feel that he looked at his data before he got into it too much.
Oh, he took his time.
He took his time. I mean, we had a meeting. I told him pick 4 numbers, and then about 2 hours later, he said, "Give me his 4 numbers." So, yeah, he can debate me all he wants on that point, but I'm in front of a microphone, and he's not. So, we'll just leave it at that. He picked 90 on his 95 day. He picked up 37-24. That one had a really, really solid season.
Yeah. It definitely showed its agronomic strength this year, combined with the yield potential that it does bring along.
Yep. He also had 102-13 on the DeKalb side. That had a really nice season too. Just a all-around good, consistent corn in that 102-day range. 56-26, same thing. Yep. That one's been pretty solid as well. His flex was actually Brevant 108 or 08 R32. That thing had some really good results on the plots. So he had that in our couple late plots, and that was 250, 260 in those. So
and I think that number too. I mean that I know some growers that was probably some of their best corn on their farm. Even if it didn't come in a Brevant bag, let's say.
Yeah.
It
did well. And then his beans, he picked 1776 Atavos and 21 C2 NKs. And that 1776 Atavo is actually kind of an interesting one because that was a little later than I was expecting. I don't know if you saw that or not.
It might be more like a 1.9 or a 2.0.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know we did Spencer did a drone flyover, and we were looking at the Adams plot, like, what is going on here? And the same thing in Meltonville. I mean, it was the same look.
Yeah.
I mean, just green.
Yep. I flew that on Labor Day, and I mean, that thing was grass green. When we put it together early to late, and that was right smack dab in the middle, and that thing was dang near green as grass.
I think it was greener than anything.
It was greener than
any
the
of the
2.2s.
later maturities in it.
Yeah.
So,
but it got rid of its leaves in a hurry because it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And we don't need, 21C2, that's been around forever. Solid agronomics, very good white mold bean, very good. For an NK bean, handles sudden death really well as well.
Yes.
So yeah, like I said, I feel like there was some cherry picking going on there and stuff like that. So I guess what it tells me is there was still some stuff that we left on the field, I guess, that maybe we could have went after, but that's also hindsight too.
And with a challenge like this too, you're when you're playing traditional fantasy football, you got the waiver wire week to week. We set our draft and we leave it. We don't get to, and it's like a grower. You don't get to change your mind. I think we all had good reasons for why we picked what we picked, and
This is like 5-card stud.
doesn't mean we're always going to be right.
Yeah.
Just like my seat, when you're trying to build a lineup, you don't get to look backwards.
No, you don't. So, looking at what happened in 25, and maybe let's do a little forecasting into 2026. I know that's rough, but what do you think are going to be on some guys' minds at this point?
All right, so since my crystal ball is still on back order, we're going to have to kind of, well, it is.
It is.
As a farmer myself, we tend to have really short-term memories of what worked, and we never forget what didn't work.
Yep.
So what's probably going to be the hottest thing on everyone's minds going forward?
Southern Rust.
Southern Rust, right? Oh no, the sky is falling. Southern Rust is here. We're doomed.
Mm-hmm. We said that 3 years ago.
Right. It's the once every 10-year fungal pathogen, and we've dealt with it 2 or 3 years in a row. All right, so here's my best guess on why we saw it again here last year is we had a fairly mild open winter.
Yep.
And this does not survive in the north. It has to overwinter somewhere. Well, Missouri decided it wanted to support climate change and not get overly cold last winter. So they figure it probably overwintered in southern Missouri. So all it did was it gave it a head start on moving north last year, which is why we started to see it move in middle to the latter part of July.
Yep.
But it didn't really flare up until right around that 1st through the 10th of August. And then the big question was, well, should I spray again? I just spray, if a grower sprayed, they sprayed probably around the middle of July, which most fungicides will last 2 to 3 weeks, depending on weather and climate conditions. And we had just a little bit of rain to wash away what we had sprayed out there. What were the corn markets like middle of the summer? How excited were folks?
Not excited.
Yeah, everyone was whining that, sub $4 corn market, I can't invest. So a lot of folks didn't. So most of us didn't make either a second application or a first application for that matter. So you got no protection from your first shot, even though it did do a little something for you. There isn't the big shot to keep it clean. So then you're relying strictly on native resistance of these hybrids for southern rust, which I'm not going to say which genetic pool tends to have the stronger. They both have strong ones. They both have weak ones. But there is one genetic supplier that tends to be a little weaker on southern.
Can I say?
You can say.
It goes back to the old DeKalb days. Their genetics are a little bit more southern heat-based.
Correct. They're a little stronger.
They're a little stronger on
Yep.
southern rust because that's what I'm telling guys is that.
Yep.
They're bred to be a little bit more heat tolerant and sometimes I think it's a stress thing myself.
Well, so that was where I was gonna go next. Because so everyone's all hot and bothered about southern. So we're gonna gravitate. We're gonna let this pendulum swing to the other end of the extreme. We're gonna select products only great on southern. Well, there were products out there that were average on southern tolerance, but they fended it off and they still yielded through. Just like any other disease, there's some that get it, yield through. There's others that at the slightest little hint of a disease, they melt down. So we're all going to gravitate towards strong southern tolerance. We touched on it first already. You guys had a little bit of rain this summer, right?
Yeah.
And some gentle, 5 to 7 inch rainfalls, right?
At one time, yes.
Yes, within 24 hours.
Especially in your area, Josh. That was hard.
Yeah, I think we had 40 inches of rain for the year.
Yeah.
So, quite a bit above average.
Yes.
And it all soaked in, right?
Some of it.
Right, like the first 1.5 inches soaked in, then the next 5 ran off.
Well, we had a rainfall in August. We got 8 inches in one shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anybody any good.
First 3/4 went in the ground, and then the rest of it just ran and sat.
Okay, so I'm going to rewind a little bit farther. Spring planting conditions. We warmed up fairly early. We were fairly dry, especially compared to 2024.
Right. But we weren't planting really early around here though.
Correct.
I mean, we're probably about 2 weeks behind what we usually like to see.
Yeah, but you guys, I think you planted in the normal window, the good window, not the,
yes.
I got to keep up with my neighbors that park the finisher out on the corner of the field, so I got to show them I'm ahead of them.
Yes.
So you take that Highway 20 corridor and south, actually probably more like Highway 30 and south, they were pretty well buttoned up by the 1st of May. You get up in here and you guys farm, I'm just 2 hours east of you here. We were more in that 5th of May through about the 15th of May was when most stuff got planted.
That's what we were at around here.
Soil
Maybe
temps.
you guys were ahead of us down Marble Rock.
I think by a week, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
But long story short, soil temps were up. Soil moisture was adequate. Not wet, not dry. Stuff came out of the ground in about
5 days.
5 days to 10 days,
Yeah.
depending on tilled versus no-till.
Yep.
So stuff came up fairly decent. We had nice temps and moisture through the first half of June. Then we turned kind of wet. We get into July. We're at 4th of July picnics. Crop looks lush. Beans still looked ugly because it had been kind of wet.
Yep.
But we thought the corn crop was made, and it was made huge by about the 4th of July. Market sucked. We weren't going to spend any more on it. It looked good enough. We're just going to let it ride.
Yep.
What does wet feet through June, July do for plant health?
Not great.
Not great.
Because you don't make any roots because there's no reason to.
Yep.
And then you compound that with fusarium and crown rot, all this stuff.
So your fusarium stalk and crown rot and your anthracnose stalk rot all sets in by V4 to V6.
Yep.
It gets compounded. If you stay relatively dry through the summer, it doesn't really blow up. You throw a bunch of water on it, latter half of June into July, that's when that stuff gets going. And what makes it even worse is when you turn the spigot off in August through September, you got a big factory built, you got some leaf diseases chewing away, it's trying to finish the ear, you're starting to choke off the vascular tissue, and that's when you see these stalks turn black, shiny with lesions, anthracnose, and you also compromise the rest of the vascular tissue through the crown from the fusarium, and that plant just shuts off and kind of melts. Mm-hmm. That's why you see a lot of the lodging issues. Just some gentle breezes that came through too this summer and blew some corn over both in season, which is what happened at Jessup. That site was so root lodged we had to throw a lot of the data out. And that derecho word keeps kind of getting thrown around every year with some of these gentle breezes that blow across Iowa that makes good standing corn not so good standing. And by the way, to your point, with adequate moisture, roots don't have to grow because they only grow to water.
Right.
And they won't grow in water.
No.
It's not rice.
Nope.
So you put a small anchor underneath of it.
And you also probably take a little bit into account rootworm. We didn't even talk about rootworm in that.
We didn't drown them all, did we?
No.
We drowned some, but not all of them.
No.
And let's not forget the fact that those nice, gentle 2, 3, 5-inch rains that we had, that's Mother Nature flushing the toilet, taking nitrogen, nitrate, and sulfur down through the profile. And consistently saturated soils, you're also going to denitrify up into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised we didn't see more fired up nitrogen-deficient fields at the end of the season. But there was that pale yellow-green to the upper canopy, which was, I think, sulfur first, followed by nitrogen. But by the time the nitrogen started to show up, you were seeing the anthracnose top die back.
Right.
And it was kind of scary. Driving across Iowa the 10th through the 15th of August, there were a lot of fields where I was like, we need 2 weeks more of growing season. This stuff's turning the corner already. The yield surprised me for how high they were, given what we put this crop through. Mm-hmm. But thankfully it dried fairly quick so guys could go out and get it at a decent moisture. If we would have had a cool, wet fall, everyone would probably have a corn reel on and be ripping what little bit of hair they had left out of the top of their heads. So, or maybe that's just me. I don't know. So that's kind of the year in review. I think we're going to be all hung up on southern rust, and we're going to overlook the fact that what really probably caused us more grief in this area is the stalk and crown rots that are out there.
Yeah. To me, I agree with you on that because I think this stuff, southern rust, and I'm gonna put tar spot in that range too.
Oh yeah, we had that too.
We had that too. I feel like those diseases are very aggressive diseases. Don't get me wrong, and I think they can take a lot of yield in a hurry. We saw that at times with if the guy didn't do a fungicide or not. You know, there were some big numbers at times, but if they're just by themselves, I think that plant handles it just fine. Yep. Or maybe not just fine, but handle it adequately. It's those things like, you know, crown rot and fusarium and stuff like that. I think that helps get it started, And then it's just like getting the flu and pneumonia. One's not going to really affect you too bad, but you get both of them at the same time, watch out.
Yep. And I know my counterpart on the agronomy and crop protection side, Tyler Steinkamp, made the comment numerous times this summer that those warm nighttime temps that did cause some pollination issues in areas also kind of helped to keep the tar spot, the gray leaf, and the northern at bay. And we had more out there than we realized this year, but it never really flared up. And I'll use the analogy, and I'm not trying to strike nerves with people, but I call tar spot COVID for corn.
Yeah.
To your point, Chad, by itself, just another leaf disease. But when you have another pre-existing condition, and the big one to me is Fusarium stalk and crown, when you have those two together, that's when you get that rapid death. Usually it's right around Labor Day at this maturity, where you see that corn go from green and healthy to almost a green-gray necrotic look, like it got killed by frost. And that's when you see that plant shut down almost instantly because you've choked off the vascular tissue while compromising the leaf area from the tar spot itself. So by itself, not bad. In combination with some other pathogens, you can have some really, really bad scenarios.
Well, and the other thing is, you're talking about those highs in August. I kind of charted. I had a guy actually ask me about that, and we went on Field View, kind of just charted it out. I mean, we were on average almost 10 degrees warmer on our lows, more importantly our lows, but even our highs as well. Yeah. I mean, we had probably about 7 days of 95 plus, in the middle part of August. And it's like, after 85, I mean, obviously we're not doing anything there. All that's doing is just burning carbohydrates in that plant, trying to keep it cool. It's more importantly at night.
Yeah, those nighttime temps are what kill. I mean, 70 to 72 is kind of where you need to fall under to really let that plant respire, rest, and recover normally. And I mean,
I think we were at about 75 the whole month.
July into August, a lot of us, our air conditioners ran through the nights in our house. You couldn't really shut things down, open up the windows, and let everything cool off. It was warm. I thought it was warm during the day, not excessively hot. Mm-hmm. You think about when kids went back for football practice, and you didn't see a lot of reports of kids collapsing at football practice. It was warm, but it wasn't hot. But those nighttime temps
they never cooled off.
Yep.
They just never cooled off.
We kind of had summer nights more like they had in central Illinois and Indiana.
Yep.
More so than what we're used to.
Yeah, and our genetics don't handle that well.
Well, that's what we're planting fuller season products every year.
Yes. I had one guy kind of tell me he thought the cloudiness or the smokiness kind of hurt our bean yields. Have you heard anything about that or thought about that at all? Or?
So that's always been the talk. Canada blowing their smoke up, or what? Are they compromising our yields or not? And you're still getting solar radiation through the smoke. But I think it actually slowed down plant growth more so than anything. So did it shave some off? Potentially. I mean, you think about, I always look at Nebraska. They're spoiled. You've got irrigation over half to 2/3 the state. So they make it rain even on a sunny day. So you think about solar radiation, full intensity, there's a reason why they can grow 250 to 300 bushel corn on 13 inches of rain in beach sand. Because corn's nothing more than a solar panel and a water pump. And as long as both those run at full efficiency, you have full yield potential. So to your question, I think it did cost us a little bit. I'd say corn and beans both. Beans, honestly, I was kind of surprised the yields were as good as they were. And I look at if we could have had another half-inch of rain in August, because the spigot did kind of turn off right after the 1st of August.
Yes.
We caught some little showers, but nothing big. Anybody that was walking fields at senescence or even shortly thereafter, there are a lot of small aborted pods in that upper third to half of the canopy. And we're always going to lose some, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot that was on the edge where it's like, man, if we could have had another half inch, we probably would have had a lot of 80, 85, pushing 90 bushel bean yields out there. So we had good subsoil moisture, but that'll only carry you so far with a bean.
Do you think that's why maybe some of those early beans did as well as they did because of that? Just got ahead of things?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Because, I mean, that's what I'm kind of attributing it to. Because, I mean, a lot of the later beans, you could kind of see that the pods were almost kind of purplish, so that tells me there was maybe a little bit of a translocation issue.
Yeah, they just weren't as close to the finish line when the spigot got turned off.
Yeah.
And you see it. I mean, for corn, the fuller season you go on corn, the more yield you tend to pick up. With beans, with the exception of your pick with those 2 7s, beans, it's less pronounced from a yield advantage for going fuller season. It's probably more of an advantage for just keeping some beans with moisture when everything else is dropping down under 10% harvest moisture, you still have some full season ones that are going to be in that 11 to 13 range. So
I know everybody's kind of probably started selling some beans and corn right now for seed right now. I mean, have any of you guys had any call outs or anything from any of those guys, or anything that they're concerned that we haven't talked about yet, or kind of about the same? So we've been kind of just been discussing.
No specific call-outs that I can think of on my end. I guess the one main comment I was going to make, if 65 bushel beans are impacted yields, I think putting the farmer hat on, everybody would be pretty darn happy. So if that's our reduced yields, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, because I mean, in your area, we probably didn't, nobody really hit expectations, I'm sure, but
I think a lot of guys were pretty darn happy with beans in our area.
Okay.
I don't think there was any brand in particular that had a bad year. I mean, there's some bean fields with drowned out spots and whatnot, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that came across the scale in the high 60s, low 70s, and guys, I mean, you really didn't hear a lot of 40s and 50s. I mean, yes, were there the pockets, sure, but I would say majority of bean yields were upper 60s, low 70s.
Yeah, I'd say most of the guys were very pleased with their beans, little underwhelmed on their corn at times. I mean, Colin,
I would say
that kind of what you're thinking?
I wouldn't attribute it necessarily to variety specific and region location. I mean, I thought what you did in your field was consistent. The biggest things were how you manage your beans. I mean, if you took an extra step on seed treatment, if you took an extra step on using a fungicide, if you manage that, there was plenty of fields where I walked that I know had no seed treatment, no fungicide, and you're starting to see the disease pop up. Did those fields did well? Don't get me wrong, but I mean, even in some of our own trials, I mean, I want to say we saw some advantage to some of that higher managed, that better managed acre, let's say.
Even taking one more step back and fertilizing your beans.
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Why would we do such a
Wild
thing? They're
concept.
beans.
Treat them like a crop. I mean, come on.
There's a lot to be said for even 100 pounds of potash and a few units of sulfur out there. I mean,
yes.
It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pour the coals to it, but I mean, anywhere from 15 to 20 units of sulfur and 60 units of potash will make a heck of a difference on a bean crop for a pretty low cost.
Yeah.
I've got some counterparts that call beans poverty peas, and just because they joke about them that way doesn't mean you have to treat them that way.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'll vouch for that one. I mean, I've converted a lot of my guys to 1 year spreads around my area because of that. Also because I kind of like the 4R stuff. But to me, it's like I get to have that conversation with the guy every year, and that's why I like doing it, because it's like at least I can make an adjustment if we have to.
It keeps the conversation going too, because
Yes.
if you're not talking about fertilizer on a farm, you're waiting a year you're waiting 2 years to basically have that conversation. It's like there's going to be a lot of things that can be forgotten, and you can make a lot more adjustments to your game plan versus what did we do 2 years ago, or what did we do?
Yeah, it's the forgetfulness thing part of it, and everybody's included on that. I will say this is the year of management. This is the first year in a few that if the guy was aggressive with his management when it came to treatments, fertilizer, side dressing, fungicide, the type of the brand, more of a premium brand or going to pass or whatever, it seemed like most of those decisions were good decisions this year.
I would say the ROI stood out significantly. Not
Yes.
saying that those higher managed acres other years aren't good. It's just you could really see it this year.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, there was numerous stresses placed on every acre, and we had
At different times too.
Yes, yeah. Other than I would say planting was the lowest stress time of the year that we had from a plant standpoint.
Unless you were in that early window. Though, I mean, a lot of those acres had to be fixed or readjusted or replanted or something.
But that's the gamble with early planting corn and beans both every year. Is you're rolling the dice of, is it going to warm up naturally, or are we going to stay cooler and wetter than what we normally expect? So that to me is you either patient or you roll the dice. But then we had plenty of stress from weather. We had a smorgasbord of diseases show up this year. So you pick your flavor of what killed this plant first. And honestly, to the soybean thing, for as wet as this area was through most of the summer, I was pleasantly surprised with how high the bean yields were. I figured there would have been a lot of 45 to 55 bushel beans, and that would have been about it because of the wetter, heavier soils that you all have here. But also, let's look back at how much tile's been put down in the last 15 to 20 years.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
that tile does pay.
There's one investment that always pays.
Yep.
Can't
That's-
go wrong with tile.
You may hate cutting the check, but you know it's going to pay year after year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would say probably the one right after that is probably lime, and then probably fertility after that.
You
And
can put all the fertilizer out there in the world that you want, but if it's tied up with the soil pH,
Yep.
can't do much with it.
right. Yeah, because like I said, I'm contributing in 2025 as the year of management. I mean, we didn't have that weather, whatever you want to say at that point, where weather just is the equalizer. Yeah. It's like, well, everybody had really good corn because we had perfect weather, or we had really crappy corn because we had a drought. And it doesn't matter at that point what the management was. This year, it seemed like all those little levers that a guy could pull seemed like they worked pretty well. So, were there any other watch outs that we saw, or anything that anybody's sticking on anybody's craw, I guess?
Well, I would say with the wet year this year, pre-emerge would be the other big one. Is
that's a good one.
We sprayed pre's, and then or some people who were maybe waiting on that one pass. Well, all of a sudden the rain hit, and we had no idea when we were going to get back in. I don't think I've ever seen so much drop nozzle spraying done in a year.
I don't want to ever see it again.
I feel for the boys up in Northwood. I mean, that just had to have been headache day after day.
And he's shaking his head.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for, again, it's the check doesn't always feel the best out front, but man, if we can layer those pre's out there, and give us that window to 5 to 6 week window, again, depending on some other variables, to get back out there. It's a lot easier to prevent weeds from coming up than it is to kill them after they're out of the ground.
And one thing to that too, I mean, you think about all those acres that got drop nozzle. You had good enough weed control. You didn't have perfect weed control because stuff was up, it was big, and you're not getting perfect coverage. So I think it's safe to say that we probably have a pretty healthy weed seed bank, especially around water hemp out there going forward. And I know there were a lot of bean fields where Liberty worked incredibly well this year because we had enough moisture.
Yes.
We had a fairly thin cuticle, so that chemistry worked exceptionally well, better than I ever would have guessed.
Especially if you throw like everybody kind of did an MSO on it this year. Strike lock. There was a lot of strike lock that hit the market this year.
So we were kind of spoiled with how good Liberty worked, and we're going to assume as farmers that it's going to work that well again next year. But we also have all this extra seed bank out there, and there were a lot of dirty bean fields late season going through.
Right.
So we can't get lazy and think that doing the same weed program we did this year is going to work just as well or better next year when we have more seed out there in the seed bank. So we may have to go a little earlier. We may have to go fuller rates. We may have to plan on a 2-pass, if not a 3-pass. And I'm afraid there's some of these bean fields where we're getting pretty close to 4 passes, depending on what you're going after, what you're spraying with.
Especially as what your timing going to be.
Yep.
I mean, these early beans, you almost got to go to a 2-pass post.
Yep.
I mean, that's part of it.
Well, if we learned anything this year, timing's never a guarantee.
Right. But we had good performance with the pre-emerges this year, though.
Yep.
I was
the
really
guys who put them on were very
yeah,
happy with it.
yeah, especially on the soybean side. I mean, if a guy was pretty aggressive with his bean pre, I mean, there's some really good premium products at that point. I mean, I get it; they come with a cost, but man, that was money well spent this year.
If they work, they're worth it.
Yes.
And sometimes the occasional skip by the applicator isn't the worst thing, because when the growers complain that, I spent all that money on that pre, it didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
If you
and then
didn't
you
have
see
it-
where the skip is, it's like, that's what you would have had if you wouldn't have done anything. Like, oh,
Yeah, that's right.
now I get it.
Yep. So, I think we're going to leave it at that. I think we've talked about most of what we wanted to talk about. I'm just going to give Josh congratulations.
So do you have victory speech?
You got a victory speech.
Just appreciate everybody's time.
All right, we'll leave her at that. Jeff, I want to thank you for coming in. I always enjoy when you come in because you always got a good, candid responses to most of our stuff. You don't, sugarcoat it by any means. So
I appreciate the
that.
invite.
Well, like I said, I was hoping to get you in the first time, but hey, second time's just as good. So, I want to thank you guys for coming in. I know this is a new experience for everybody in there. So, yeah, it's something to think about next year. I kind of like it. This is kind of a little bit of a team building thing, where it's like, okay.
I'm already excited for next year.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of the, hey, I got you on that one, but then usually it's, yeah, well, did you beat me on everything else?
I think before we wrap up, I think Chad was crunching some data and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing really good here." And then I threw something in. I'm like, "Hey, did you get this plot in there?"
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Oh, no,
Yep,
I didn't have that plot.
Yep.
That changes things.
Yep. Actually, yeah. Colin finished second. I finished third, and Nick was fourth. But I was second until that last plot. So Spencer got me again. So, all right. So if you're watching this or listening to this, you're probably getting it from someplace. But you can pretty much get this anywhere. We got it on Spotify. We got it on Apple iTunes. We also do have this as a video on YouTube, so look us up on YouTube. We also have our other social media places that we're at Nexus Co-op on Facebook, or Nexus Cooperative on Facebook, Instagram Nexus Co-op, X Nexus_Co-op, and like I said, we do have a YouTube channel too. So we got plenty of new content on there, so that's been kind of cool. We also do have that player on our website, so just look up, click on the spot that says listen to the podcast, and I'll probably be listening to this here in another day or two, so we'll go from there. Anyways, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.